Before I get going, could I just have a quick show of hands as to which people have actually used RISC OSM already, because I want to get an idea as to how to balance it. Great, okay. So what I'll be doing, I'll do a quick background as to what RISC OSM is and is for those who've not seen it, and then I will do a whirlwind tour, concentrating particularly on the new features, so that you see what's improved recently. So, RISC OSM is vector mapping for RISC OS. Most of the websites that you use online via a PC in a web browser will be giving you bitmaps, bitmap maps, Google Maps, Bing Maps, even OpenStreetMap on the web. You'll be getting bitmaps downloaded to your web browser. Now that's all very well, but we all know the advantages of vector formats like we've used in Draw since 1988. What a long time ago that was, and still, in many ways, the rest of the world has only just been catching on recently to the advantages of it. It's based on data from OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is, I like to call it sort of, it's like the Wikipedia of maps. You can get an account on OpenStreetMap and you can go and map things. You can put on houses, you can put on streets, you can add information, you can see what other people have mapped already and enhance it. You can go out into territory which has never before been explored and with your GPS system and map locations. And it started about 11 years ago. It was originally founded in Britain, in fact, and it's now got respectable mapping for most of the world. It's not as detailed as official mapping agencies in some parts of the country, but in other ways it can be more detailed. For example, if we go to my home town at the moment, Durham, the maps that you get in OpenStreetMap of the city of Durham are better than any other maps available. And this is because the central area of Durham particularly, there is a whole range of footpaths, and you look at something like the published alternatives like A to Z or something like that. They do not detail these footpaths, which are really important to knowing how to get about the place. I'm just going to highlight them actually so you can see highway, footway, and you'll see all of these footpaths that go in various places. I am very suspicious about that one though. It seems incredibly straight and I do not know of a route that does that. But that's the thing about a Wikipedia. Sometimes you just notice the odd little fault. I'm going to check that when I get home and we might remove it. Anyway, the great thing about OpenStreetMap is it is open data. It is released under an open license. The only requirement on you, if you want to reuse a map, is to credit OpenStreetMap, which is why at the bottom of the window it says copyright OpenStreetMap contributors. If you export a draw file, which you can easily do, just like this, export draw, plonk it on your, sorry, it says footpath number 62 as a title because that was the thing that happened to be near the centre of the map, but it tries to give you the helpful title, but you can edit that. So we've now got a draw file of exactly the same stuff. It includes that credit there, so it makes it easy for you to comply with the license by including that credit. And when it's in Draw, you can muck around with it in Draw and edit it in Draw if you wish. Now, the other important thing to tell you about about RISC OSM, if you've not encountered it before, is that we use the data offline. So when we sell you a copy of RISC OSM, we include on the SD card the actual data converted a couple of weeks ago for the whole of the British Isles. And in fact, the SD cards we're offering today, there's 3 different ones, and between them they cover, there's one card for the Americas, there's one card for British Isles, France, Spain, Italy, Africa and Australasia, and there's another card which covers British Isles, Netherlands, Germany, Scandinavia and most of Eastern Europe. What we don't yet cover is any countries where the predominant script is a non-Roman one. So we haven't converted Asian countries or any of the countries using Cyrillic or Greek scripts or Japanese or Chinese. You can try converting it yourself, and if you switch the language for the display in the choices to English, then you will get reasonable maps for some parts of the world which use other scripts, providing that there's been an English alternative to the names put in. But we're hoping in the future to be able to support those other scripts too. Now, so the data is on your hard drive. You can use the whole thing offline, and the gazetteer that you saw me using when I called up Durham, that is again on the hard drive, and it will also complete very quickly from the hard drive. But we are now moving into a few online explorations of the system as well, extensions to the system. So there is an online service which allows you to look up street names and places. So we've got a postcode database of the British Isles which is on the hard drive, supplied as part of the SD card. So postcode lookup is dead easy for the British Isles, Netherlands and Canada. But suppose you only had, I don't know, you just had the street and maybe you got 15 Elm Avenue, Beeston, Nottinghamshire. This is where I have to be careful because actually I think if I type Nottingham, which is the postal address, the online system doesn't find it because it doesn't understand postal addresses, but it does know that Beeston, the one I'm talking about, is in Nottinghamshire. And so here it's offering, actually it's offering a couple of alternatives. Apparently there's now, one of the things with the online system, it's not very good at knowing what places are part of what. So it's inserted Beeston Rylands and Chilwell into this, which neither of it is. But anyway, we'll try that one. And we will load up part of Beeston. It's just loading the data off the hard drive there. And it should now pinpoint, I hope, a house just there. That should be the right one. Yeah, there we are. So that's an online service called Nomine, which is behind this, which is based on OpenStreetMap itself. And not only can you put in addresses, you can also put in names of facilities. I don't know, like Newcastle Central Library, you could probably type in that. Certainly I tried National Gallery London a few minutes ago, demoing it out there in the hall. Just as we started, I was asking it for pubs near St Giles Hotel, Feltham. Click there, and it will return us the first 10 results. I can't remember which is the one we're retiring to afterwards, but anyway.
The moon on the square is the one where the spoon was.
Oh, right. Well, we'll go for that one then. The moon on the square, show on map, and it will then go and fetch the map for round here and display. So that's one, there we are, so just down there, and then I will nip off to the station in order to catch the 8 o'clock train from King's Cross back up north. Do it all in a day. It's quite a long day, but you know, there we go. I'm just going to go back to the previous map actually, because there's something else I wanted to demo around here. Now, you may have heard me talk about how up-to-date OpenStreetMap is. OpenStreetMap, as it's done by volunteers, some areas of the country end up getting mapped with inane amounts of detail, to someone who's really keen on it. And the Centre of Beeston, for the past couple of years, they've been having a lot of work going on because an extension to the Nottingham tram system has been going in, and they now have the tram lines going all the way through, and the system has been running since August. But you could actually pretty well track the progress of the track laying by viewing OpenStreetMap each week and see where they got to, because there were people who were keeping an eye on it and were going on and editing the map and improving it and adding the latest stretch on each week, which was rather amazing. Some people don't have anything better to do. But we now actually have the tram system running, which is great, and I'm going there on Wednesday and hope to see it. One of the features that you get on OpenStreetMap, there are bus stops and things like this, and there's often quite a lot of detail and URLs that we can link to. So for example, if I hover over St John's Church there, it's going to give me, if you see down the bottom of the screen, it says control-click and gives you the URL, and if you control-click, it will then open the website for that church. There's John Kirk Hi-Fi Specialists, where I think I bought an adapter for our digital camera once. I think it was that shop, to connect it to the TV. So you can open their website if you want to. Now, one thing that you will get is links from bus stops. There is a tram stop just here. If I control-click, it will in fact open the web browser and show us that the next tram, northwest bound, which I think means going to Totem, yes it does, is going to be there, well, it's about a minute's time actually, so if we get our skates on, we'll be able to catch it. Now that depends on extra data that's hidden in the OpenStreetMap data. You don't get that on the online version on the web because they don't bring that out. They could do, but it's not something they've linked up. So we're trying to identify where we can bring extra value out of the system by doing that. Now, I mentioned new features, and one wonderful new feature we've just added recently is there is a site on the web called Geograph, which covers the British Isles and Germany, and it started out as a project where they were going to try and get a photograph, one photograph for every grid square on the Ordnance Survey. So every kilometre square, they were going to get a photograph and assemble however many you need. Well, it kind of ballooned a bit beyond that, and there's now multiple photographs of all sorts of places. And this system will use their API and go and fetch from the web the photographs. So now you can see all of the kind of things you will expect to see if you have a tram going in and all the temporary work that goes on. I think actually I did see in one of them, the trouble is there's so many pictures I might not have got the same area. I have found a picture of a tram running as well, but I think it was possibly further down the road. Let's just see, I'm not sure. We won't be lucky. Yeah. Anyway, so you'll see there's lots of photographs of roadworks. But the great thing is that if you go out in the countryside where the mapping data isn't quite so rich, you may well find still photographs that have been contributed, and you get an idea of what the place is like. And it's quite good fun exploring like that. We can zoom in and focus in on particular ones. And as you hover over the pins, it will restrict the thumb list on the right-hand side, so you can actually see them. Hover over the thumbs over here, and you'll see the descriptions that people have been added, who's contributed the photograph, and work in progress alongside the churchyard, it says there, and all of that. So that's one of the new features added this time. The other major feature, I'm just going to how about turn that off? Turn that off there. The other major feature we've added is to do with what appears on the map. And I'm just going to go for I don't know, where should we go for? Oh, I know. Yeah, let me just demonstrate. The folks at Organiser, last year when we introduced the postcode data for the London show, they updated Organiser so that you could click over an address. I think it's Control-Shift-Adjust over an address. Not totally obvious, but it's now on the menu as well, because I couldn't remember what it was meant to be. So we can menu and address postcode map, and what that used to do was it looked up the postcode for the Netherlands or the British Isles and fed it through to RISC OS and displayed the map. Well, this one doesn't have a postcode on. This is where the Big Ben Club hold their show, but we can now choose that menu item, Control-Shift-Adjust. It will look it up via the online nominating database, and we will be viewing very shortly a map of the very wet-looking area where that show takes place. But Molenberg presumably does mean Mill Wharf, so that's not surprising. So while we're here, let me just demo another new feature. We have over the menu, we've got features, Control F. This has been long requested, a key for the map. People, as soon as we released RISC OS a year and a half ago, people said, oh, can I have a key for what all the symbols mean? And we said, well, if you just hover over, then at the bottom it will tell you what it is. And as you see down there, it says pharmacy and car park and supermarket and so on. So why do you need a key? But people said they definitely wanted a key. And then we thought, well, actually, why don't we combine the key with a way of turning features on and off? So you get a key here, but if you decide you don't want to display the pharmacy, or the bike parking, or the post office, or the petrol station, or the butcher, we'll leave the supermarkets on. We're saying I'm vegetarian, maybe I don't need the butcher, do I? So we'll turn the butcher off. And actually, I'm getting fed up with how long it takes to draw. We'll turn off all the buildings and the houses, and then we'll update the map. Here it goes again. Here is a new map. So you can now customize things. Before, you could have exported to draw and then rather tediously gone and selected stuff and deleted it if you didn't want certain features. Or, if you were more technologically minded, you could have delved into the style sheets that we supply with RISC OS and written your own style sheet which excluded certain features. But now with this new menu, we've got a much friendlier way to do that. Turn things off. It will do this at different scales, so suppose you, so you can choose which scales things will appear at, and it can optionally remember that from one section to another, so if you never want butchers appearing, you can turn off the butchers permanently, or whatever else you have an aversion to. I don't particularly have an aversion to butchers, but there we go. And the what is turned on and off depends upon the style sheet that you're using. So we still have other styles available. We supply a bike style which highlights cycleways and cycle parking and things like that. Monochrome style, which is very good much better for printing out black and white. It doesn't shade quite so many areas, and the distinction between the lines. If you print this out and colour thing out of black and white, then you can't see the edges of the roads very well. The monochrome one firms that up a bit. And then there's a railway style as well, which renders things with the railway lines rather more prominent and without the road names on. So if you're wanting to explore that particular aspect, then the railway style is good. But the features window depends upon the style, you see. So anything you have turned on or off in one style will not necessarily be turned on or off in the other style, because you can customize them separately. That's because they are totally different style sheets, so they can be structured in a different way internally. I think those are the main new features. Very quick rundown of those. You can use the Nomine system independently as well, actually. So there is a little application which we supply with the thing called Nomine. Now, RISC OS was actually running that behind the scenes, and so was Organizer. But you can run it like this, and it will then appear on the icon bar, and you can do searches. You can pull XML results out of it. Actually, one thing I was going to show you, just to prove that we are making progress to doing other scripts. Why can't I spell restaurants? We'll just go for pubs. Can't spell when I'm being watched. We'll try pubs in Sophia, and we will now see various items coming back in Cyrillic. Yeah. So if you look at that bit, yes, there we are. That bit here says Sophia. Sophia. I can't read the rest of it. So for nominating, we can retrieve results and display them in Cyrillic, Chinese, Japanese, Greek, anything that you've got fonts for. It doesn't do Arabic or Hebrew because what this is based on is the Ruffle library that NetSurf uses, and that doesn't yet support right-to-left languages. But the others, if you've got the fonts, they will display. We haven't done this in RISC OS yet, but that might be coming fairly soon, I hope, because we've proved it works as a simple application. So that helps to make it all a bit more international. Anyway, I think of course, the other thing I ought to show for anyone who hasn't seen it before is some of the stuff we can do with GPS. There are cameras, more sophisticated cameras, will actually take a location when you take your photo, and we've just seen the results of some of these from Geograph. But if your own photographs from a smartphone, say, or from a more sophisticated camera, you can just drop them onto the map, and it will load the new map area and pinpoint the locations on the map, which are only as accurate as however accurate your GPS fix has been, so it does depend on that. Yeah, these are various places in Durham. I think they're in about the right place. That rather strange looking one, I'll just see, how do we do it? Control click. Yeah, this will then open it in a viewing window. This was an installation from a couple of years ago from the Lumiere event that we had in Durham, where it's sort of a load of carrier bags filled with coloured light strung up.
I would do that, yeah, it's too expensive.
Well, indeed. I was going to ask whether I had a carrier bag they could give me, because I got a panda board, bare panda board to take away, which I wasn't expecting, but I've now found it fits in my lunchbox, so that's all right. I don't need one now. Oh, an acorn one, goodness me, that's a rarity. Worth far more than 5 pence. But they're all coming out, there's more of them. Right.
It's not going to put static in.
So, well, I hope not. Of course, I've turned off all the buildings, which is why Durham looks so peculiar. But anyway, perhaps I'm in the railway style still. Yes, I'm in the railway style.
Well, while you're there,
yeah.
Can you show names of junctions and signals, things like that?
On the railway style, yes, you would be able to if we'd included them in the style sheet, which I don't think we did. But we can prove the concept because in the cycle style, if you go to the Netherlands, what they have for cycle routes in the Netherlands, for long distance ones, is they tend to, each junction tends to be given a number. So you're told, well, first you write to number 32, then go to 37, and then go to 17, and you just follow these numbered signs. So yeah, we can, if a junction node in the system had a name, then it would be possible to amend the style sheet to display it. And probably you need to talk to Chris Hall about that, because he has been doing quite a lot of work with railway maps in Ireland, and he now has put online maps exported from RISC OS for other people to enjoy, with all the signalling details overlaid with signal boxes and stuff like this. So yeah, you can do all kinds of things like that if you really want. Now, that was just photos, but of course we also have things like GPS tracks. I'm just wondering how long this one will take. This one is a big one, very big one. This is part of the, oh Jaff, I wish I'd changed off the railway style, because it's going to draw us all in the railway style now. And there aren't very many railway lines around where that one is. Yeah, I'm going to draw the map. It's going to be 4 gigabytes. Oh. The funny thing is, this does speed up about halfway. I don't know why, but it used to get slower, which was frustrating, but now it's slightly more accurate. Anyway, what this file is, let me just entertain you by showing you the inside of the file. This is a GPX file, which is a standard format which is output by a lot of devices, including things, and this one came from a Garmin watch, the kind of thing that you wear on your wrist, and it measures your heartbeat and stuff while you're doing your training exercise or whatever. So I was on a ride, the C2C, across the north of Northumberland and County Durham and so on, Cumbria, a couple 3 years ago. And this is our first day, which was from Workington to, I think it was Penrith, our first night. And the map data is now loaded, and here we come. So now draw the map, and finally after that it will overlay the route. Ah, yeah, you know what? It always does it it often does it in this green colour to start with. So I'm going to just hold on. Let's get this one. Track colour. Let's get something a bit brighter. I'm going to pick the orange, because the orange is actually otherwise used on the maps, so it's not quite bright. Anyway, you can see there that is the route we took for the first day, and we can zoom in and see the detail of any of that. Yeah, it's still not. Perhaps I should put red on. Yeah, hold on. Forgotten is, I'm sure there's a nicer way of getting Kingston trapped window. Where are we? There we are. We'll do it red, and we'll make the line an awful lot thicker, and then you'll be able to see it. There we are. Right. So GPX files, you can record your progress, and it has times and everything in it. It's got, the time that we were there, and it's got the altitudes above the elevation and things like this. But these can be output from all sorts of devices these days, and you can also, with RISC OS, plot your own pins and tracks using the software. One of the features that I'd like to add is the ability for it to sort of hug the ways that are already on the map, because as it's vector data, we know where all these things are. If it was a bitmap, we wouldn't be able to tell where the road really was. So you can give it a name, and then you can export it. So you can actually load that into your GPS device or into your phone or whatever. And we've got a user in the Netherlands who he was able to load it into his phone. He's got an app on his phone, and then the voice would tell him which way to drive the car when he got to the next junction. So he planned the route using our software because he didn't want to do the automatic one. But then it was still able to take that and issue his instructions as he was driving along to tell him to turn left and stuff. So that's really quite amazing. I don't know how that works, but there we go. So yeah, I mean, there's just loads of different things you can do with maps, really. And the great thing is, as it's free data, you can you can do anything with this without restriction, really. We do sell the data on the SD cards, but you are completely free to use the conversion software that we provide and download the map data yourself and convert it. You don't have to buy data from us at all. It can be time consuming. On an RMX6, it takes 12 hours to do the British Isles. It's a few days to do Germany on an RMX6. So usually in the run-up to the show, about 4 weeks before, we will download the data sets we want to provide, and we will have a machine sitting there day and night, churning away. And then when it gets to probably about Wednesday this week, we then start writing into the SD cards. And I don't know whether it's our card reader or what, but the card reader, it takes about an hour, 20 minutes to fill a gig card. So there's a lot of work gone into that. So, if you want to avoid all that hassle yourself, I'm very happy to sell you data on the cards. Or you can download small portions of the data from the web. You can download just an English county. And, oh yeah, whoops, I better not leave the bank bag on the floor. Thank you very much. Yeah, so you can download small bits and convert them for a lot of countries if you wish. I think I'll stop and take questions now, because I've probably missed various bits, but I'd like to hear what you want to know about. Yeah.
And formatting KML, KML data to the system.
KML, we support KML files as well as GPX. It doesn't support the kind of detailed styling where you can actually say what the thing will be modelled as, what it will look like, it will be shaded and actually fill things in. You know, I mean, KML is a whole kind of modelling language that should allow you to overlay graphics even on a map. But we support KML basic tracks in KML, and it will take the colours from the KML file if they've been defined and use the same ones.
Because they work for you, use that for the boundaries of the constituency, UMPs. You can put the postcode into the, they work for you. You can get a KML file of the constituency boundary. And the last time I tried it, didn't take it into.
Oh right.
Maybe about a year ago, so it may have been.
We did some improvements to KML, I think in July or June, because another user sent us some examples that didn't work. So I'll try again.
Yeah.
Try again. If it doesn't work, send us an example and we'll make it work.
Okay, I'll put this link you to the.
I tried it with. There was a census boundary. There's a site, an excellent site where you can look at census data, and they can give you census area boundaries, and that did work. But of course, that's a different site. I think it was part of the same. I can't remember if it was the same suite of websites. But anyway, yeah. If you've got any file like that, KML, GPX, or any other sort of file that contains that kind of data, and RISC OS doesn't support it, please send us an example because we want to support more file formats there. We've now registered a file type for KML and GPX on RISC OS, so you can file type them and double click to load them in if you wish. Any other questions?
If you go walking in somewhere like Austria,
Yes.
you can get extremely good walking maps to load onto Garmin, things like that. But I don't know what format they're in. Is there any possibility that they would convert mode easily?
Well, I know that you can get files, map files for Garmin devices based on OpenStreetMap already. There are some websites that will allow you to do that. I think it probably, as I don't know about what format the Garmin files, the Garmin thing needs them in, that would take a bit of work for us to do that. There are websites that you can get the OpenStreetMap turned into Garmin data already. Obviously, they might not work on the RISC OS very well, but
the ones I use is a German site. I'm just trying to remember what it's called now. But they do virtually the whole of Europe.
Yes.
And they have got virtually all the footpaths in somewhere like Austria on their maps.
Yes.
When you're walking. And the OpenStreet maps in Austria are not as good as in UK.
Right, yeah. Well, the other thing as well for walking, you often want to know about contours, and we don't have contour data available in OpenStreetMap. There are free sources of fairly crude contour data which comes from NASA, I think. There's certainly some, satellite-based contour data which is not as good as Ordnance Survey, for example. But we've not tried doing anything with those yet. It's rather, I'm feeling rather, it's rather daunting, to be honest, because if you think about the amount of data for contour data, you've got lines that cover the whole country fairly densely. That's going to be a massive amount of data if you're going to do anything with it. So yeah, there are some versions of OpenStreetMap that you can go to where they have rendered it complete with contour data, and sometimes with hill shading in a way that we don't have on our British maps. It's actually quite helpful because it sometimes helps you work out which way is up and which way is down without having to read along the contour line to find the number. Yeah. So there are some nicely done ones. Some of them based on OpenStreetMap, and no doubt there are commercial ones as well. So contours, I think, is something we won't be doing anytime soon. We're gradually ticking off the list of other suggestions that people have made. So it might happen eventually, I don't know.
Is contour done generally anywhere on OpenStreetMap?
Not really, no, it's not part of the OpenStreetMap data. So you do have to find another source for it and mix it in. Now, some people have done this, and there are sort of walking. I mean, if you go to, one of the things I ought to point out, there is other map software available for RISC OS, including this thing called MapView from Thomas Millius. And we can actually export the location from a map here in a suitable format for Thomas Millius's MapView. So that will then go away and it will fetch OpenStreetMap tiles online now and convert them and show them. So that's what the official OpenStreetMap shows for the same sort of area. Now you can't overlay GPX or anything like this, and the interface, it needs a bit, it could be developed a bit further, but you can view the cycle one instead if you set it up the right way. And you'll now see that in the cycle version of OpenStreetMap, they have obtained contour data from another source, and you have the shading as well. You've got all of that in there. So if you're interested in that kind of mapping on RISC OS, Thomas Millius's MapView, which is free to download, is well worth exploring. And drop in, if you think it could be enhanced in a number of ways, drop him an email. I'm sure he'd be glad to know people are using it, because it could. I'm sure there are ideas he would have for developing it, like being able to view a wider area of map, maybe, or exporting the whole thing as a sprite. That would be an option.
He uses a variety of, he's got some facilities in the program to use a variety of different maps.
Indeed.
Including, I think, the one I mentioned for walking in the Europe.
Yeah. Well, these then get converted into sprites, I think, to be rendered on the screen. Yeah. So, in theory, he should be able to knit those together into a bigger sprite so that you could export it. But he hasn't developed it that way, as far as I know. I've no idea what he does for a living or how busy he is, but I would suggest that if you're interested in that area of mapping, get in touch with him and say, you've seen his software and would he like to improve, add one or two features, because he may well be open to doing that. I don't know. Generally in the RISC OS world, if you're a developer, you tend to do a lot more if people write to you with encouraging remarks saying, I really like that software, or I'm using this, because that does motivate people, because otherwise, you're thinking, why am I writing this software for such a minority platform?
He started by writing it for himself.
Exactly.
The projects he had.
I see, right.
Because I had some contact with him.
Okay.
Before you came along with RISC OS.
Yeah, well, of course, he was writing it about the same time that we were writing this, because we started writing this 3 years ago, RISC OS, and it just took a year and a half before it was in a fit state to release. So it was a big piece of work.
The other thing that I'm thinking about where I live in Buckinghamshire, walking in the countryside, the other thing that Ordnance Survey does is of course field boundaries, which are very useful in navigation.
Yeah, field boundaries are indeed useful. The difficulty about putting them on OpenStreetMap is that if you're going to trace them by walking around with a GPS unit to get the boundaries, you'd have to do a lot of trespassing.
Yeah.
Now, the other way of doing it is by overlaying satellite imagery, and so in some parts of the country you will find that they've added field boundaries and fences and walls and so on using satellite imagery, because there are some satellite, I think the Bing satellite imagery, they can use it in OpenStreetMap to overlay stuff and trace things. And so people often do a combination of tracking with a GPS device and then looking and comparing with the satellite imagery. I don't think it does, because they've been given a license to do the tracing. They're allowed to do it, and they're not impeded in any way. But it hasn't meant that they have any. They're not beholden to Bing as a result of this. It's okay.
How would Bing manage to get OS data on it?
Oh, it's not OS data. It's satellite pictures.
Bing maps will allow you to, in Britain, will allow you to put that.
And you can't trace from the Bing maps in OpenStreetMap. You can only trace from the Bing satellite imagery.
Yeah.
You can't trace from the other things. No, that's not allowed. You can trace from OS Open data, which is a very cut-down version of Ordnance Survey, where you will discover that all the field boundaries and all the footpaths have been removed, because of course the Ordnance Survey make a certain amount of money from selling that kind of stuff to people who want that kind of detail. But for things like roads and other major features, then that's a useful source as well. It's allowed to be used in OpenStreetMap.
You can put your own maps from streetmap.co.uk.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, I think people find that although you can, in theory, go and fetch tiles from these various servers and combine them, possibly flouting the license on the data and stuff, it's an awfully fiddly thing to do. Whereas in RISC OS you can go and choose your map size, and I have actually generated maps at A0 size and had them printed out on a giant poster printer for use. We printed out a giant map of Durham for use at a community event, and people could scribble all over it to say what they wanted improved and that kind of thing. So you can do stuff like that and generate any size of map you wish, provided your computer's fast enough or you've got enough patience.
Because streetmap, they put them all these 500 meter tiles on. But if you do it in NetSurf, you download the whole thing as a draw file.
Well, indeed, yes, indeed. In NetSurf, you could pull in the tiles from streetmap.co.uk.
I do that loads of times.
I suspect very much that that's probably technically breaching the copyright, but you'd have to read the small print to find that out. Probably no one will notice, but that doesn't mean
OS data ought to be more important.
Well, yes. Anyway, right. Any other comments or questions?
Can you comment on the prospects of using this program to programmatically create a map and then using that in another RISC OS application?
Well, yeah, if you wanted to do that, at the moment, the best thing to do would be to talk to Chris Hall, who inhabits the RISC OS Open Forum and other places. You can get in touch with him. I mean, he's here today. He has used the export feature. What you can do, if you export draw files with map coordinates, he's got a piece of software he's written which the map coordinates bit he can then pull out and chop it all up into tiles, and he's produced sprites to cover the whole of Ireland as a result of that. Now, obviously that's still a bit complicated because he has had to go and save all of those map areas and then recombine them with his clever piece of program, which I think I've seen part of it, but it's all rather complicated. Yeah, in theory, we could say, you know, define an area and ask it to be rendered at a certain scale and output in a certain way.
Could you provide a readable module with slides to call from another program that actually did all this and create the sprite?
I think a relocatable module would not be very easy to do, because that would mean that all the rendering and all the code for RISC OS would have to be turned into a module. And it's a very big, chunky piece of software already, and that kind of thing doesn't sit very easily in module space. What we could do is add a message system so that you could send a WIMP message or a command line option to send a command line through to RISC OS to get it to save a certain area of the country in a certain format. That would certainly be possible. The one thing that is stopping us doing that at the moment is that at the moment you can only have one map window open. When Hilary wrote the software, she started by thinking, well, we might want to have several windows open, so she put in a bit of the structure that you need in a piece of software to be able to handle, you know, okay, this map data has been loaded in order to support this window over here, but that window is looking at a completely different area. This window is looking at the same area of map, so it can use the same data loaded into memory, but it's doing a different style and it's a different scale. So she did a little bit of that structure, but it's not fleshed out yet because she's been busy writing other aspects of the software, and that hasn't been finished. But there are a number of use cases that we've got coming up which would benefit from that kind of thing. I mean, for example, it would be really good to be able to drag out an area on the map instead of just zooming in, drag it out to select it and export it at a certain scale, as drawer or sprite or whatever, and you could keep the map window on screen while in the background it did the loading and churning away and then spat the thing out for you. But to do that, we've got to be able to have potentially several sets of map data loaded and several generators running through to generate stuff. So a little bit more work needs to be done to split those bits of the program apart so they can be reused and be running in multiple ways. So all that, yes, that's technically possible, and I think that's one development that we might be able to achieve in the next year or so. And if you have specific uses like that, you know, please let us know the kind of things you'd like to do and the kind of way you'd like it to work, and then we'll be able to try and make sure we develop things in the right direction, because that's always good to know. The more people who want that kind of thing and get in touch, it's going to bump it a bit higher up the list, and we think, oh, we better do that. Because there's features list. I mean, so many people wanted a key to the map and wanted to turn things on and off, so we thought, right, we better do that. And Hilary knew it's going to be complicated because it's a very complicated business, because you have these, some of these features are actually kind of refinements of other features. You have a track, and then you have a kind of track which looks at the surface type, which is a separate attribute in the data, and then you can draw it as a different way for a hard surface, or whether it's a loose stone surface, and this, that, and the other. So it's a complicated thing to do these features turned on and off, but we've got that one done. So other things that people might want, we'll gradually work through things, I think. We'll have to see how far we take it, really. You know, at some point we'll get totally worn out and stop for a break. But for the moment, Hilary seems to have the energy to carry on doing more development.
I mean, I'm trying to write a book in the moment, required mapping.
Yeah.
There's a dream for that. You can export it as a draw, where you can actually mark the features you want to refer to on the map with tags, label them, and export it as a draw file and load it into EasyWriter, no problem at all.
Yeah, yes, it can be really handy, I think.
Yeah.
I know one or two people who've taken it on holiday on a laptop using their emulator and whatever, and have been looking up routes and things for the next day's activities, or printing out chunks of stuff and taking it with them. So all sorts of uses.
Mine's been to Austria and Italy this year.
Oh, right.
On a USB stick on a lap pipe.
Okay, yes. Very good. These computers are getting about. I mean, the other thing that would be really exciting to do, but I think quite tricky, I know there are a couple of people who are experimenting with trying to get live GPS data into a RISC OS system. So Martin Hansen in Shrewsbury, I believe, is hooking up some device to a Raspberry Pi because he's trying to do a sort of maritime navigation system. And there was a guy we were talking to at the Wakefield show who had some sort of USB device which you couldn't access from RISC OS, but it would be good if you could. You'd then be able to get live GPS data. And certainly for things like ships and boats, having a computer on your boat with the software on and showing where you are is, that sort of possibility. We'd have to have a totally different style of map, and at the moment, for the British Isles, when we convert the British Isles data, we have to throw out a whole load of stuff in order to make it reasonable size. And one of the things we throw out is all of the stuff to do with where buoys are in harbours and all that kind of thing, which no doubt people like Martin Hansen would really want. But that's, that would be theoretically possible. Though I'm told that for that kind of navigation system, you really want the direction you're heading to be up on the map rather than north, and so we'd have to do a lot more work in sort of twisting it all around. That's just mathematics. Or attach a motor and have some sort of swivel on the monitor. Someone else has suggested that. We also talked to the robotics people. They would sort us out with that. John, does it think it's hard to move the mouse? Do you ever try moving a mouse upside down on the monitor? It's really, really hard.
Touch screen.
True, touch screen, fair enough. Yeah, we'll get touch screen developed for RISC OS, and then we're all set. I think I better stop there, and I'll take more questions out of the stand when I've reassembled things. But thank you very much.